Be live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think we're live now. Yeah. Hey guys, we got my good friend Andreas Delgado, the Chileman, with us. We're going to have an amazing show. I'm going to play the intro and get started. And then also, guys, I put this up every show. Just remember to I don't know why that intro played place, but it's just remember to subscribe. Why am I coming through on? I don't know why that intro played place. I'm coming through on something.
I had to shut off.
Oh, you had me playing. Okay.
Oh,
that's cool. Yeah. I was going to say, just remember to subscribe, guys, on YouTube and on Rumble. And then, hit the notification bell so you know when I go live. And also give the video a thumbs up, whether you're watching on YouTube or Rumble or, if you're watching on wherever. But today I have with me Andreas Delgado, better known as the Chileman. He's an independent researcher and a returning fan favorite on my show. His work dives into the intersection of spirituality, consciousness, and metaphysics with a unique approach that blends spiritual physics, peace and sovereignty, crystal energy, and the search for bliss. Chileman explores how hidden technologies and false AI gods influence our reality. He also examines phenomena such as the ghost in the matrix today and how humanity can reclaim their sovereignty in a world full of illusions. And with all that said, I'd like to give him a big warm welcome back to the show. Chileman, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
I'm good, my friend. I missed you, man. I missed you in Florida. I was in Florida. And just when I thought I was getting settled and getting over some, I guess, the old world, old relationships, people falling, like it seems like we're mirrors of each other. So I'm trying to stay neutral, and like I like the peace.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we're just or we're, it's like we believe, but in the end, the only person that you can believe in is you. So it's like we have to look within. Now, I used to think that this was kind of cliche, but the science backs it up. So, like I wanted to talk about crystals, but before we talk about that, like as a researcher, you have to constantly be aware that you have to shift, because if you're studying other forms of information, everybody has a bias. So in my later years, I've kept more neutral, instead of saying, this is my indoctrination. And, if you go against my God, you're the enemy. So when you study everything, you see the patterns that have arisen. And, I've been gifted a good life, a beautiful life, a beautiful mom. We are separated. It's been really hard the last 10 years, like really hard, bro. And trying to do no commerce. But when we talk, like, let me pick a subject, which is hemp, cannabis. It's in the Bible, right? The Christ used to use it as incense because it gets you out of your mind. Kind of like relax. You're in a safe place. Not to get harvested, but where everybody's on the edge. So whether it's oregano, mint, lavender, essential oils, this is the way of the old world. These are the medicines that we had. So whether it's anti-parasitic or whatever, but let's not be hypocrites, because like some people really get mad if they see somebody, like smoking on video. I even reference to you, like, what do you have against a little cannabis oil? It's medicine, right?
Yeah.
What people don't know is that it's actually a great building block because it blocks EMFs. It makes the best rope. That's why our Navy has the best rope. The hemp rope, George Washington had fibers. Come on. The peace pipe, everything. So let's not be hypocrites, because if you can't shift your conscious to the truth, then you have to ask yourself, what's wrong with me? Why am I resisting this so much? So, even the oil of it never loses viscosity. That means that our cars could be run on seed. It's medicine. It depends how you use it. So it was categorized like marijuana. Like they put another name on it and make it illegal and all this garbage where they're constantly taking your magic and our building. So, we have to look at things over again. And now you have to say, well, why do you think it's illegal? Because it's good for us. Now, when you're doing other work and talking to possibly a Tibetan that says, oh, yeah, that was a gift from us, from the cat people. And then I start thinking, don't cats have catnip?
Yeah, they do.
Like I don't see a dog eating the catnip. I don't see other animals like, hey, bro, I'm just feeding my lion, peace and love before I eat your ass, whatever it may be. So it's a gift and it has higher vibrations. So the oil, the elixirs of the gods, you hear of colloidal silver, monoatomic gold, and hemp, mirth, like all these oils that have this frequency because you have that trinity. Now, monoatomic gold is a subject. I'd like to talk about that later too. But crystals, water, oils, like it's all in play. Like I got a lot of shit, not long ago because they're like, dude, why you like smoking those blunt? I was like, that's not a blunt. I was smoking tobacco because I got shit coming through my skin. I was going to use the patches, but I enjoy a Cuban. The bad thing is when you don't have a Cuban, you got to roll your own and you got to get good tobacco. And I got some tobacco and it was, it's kind of like this has got the chemicals in it. So by telling you and making cigarettes, everybody's smoking cigarettes when back in the day they used to use tobacco, but tobacco actually, kills and does something, the nicotine, that's in the fruit, also in the eggplants and it's like the element nicotine. So when you demonize something like fat, like the good fat, the olive oil, the coconut oil, because your brain needs fat.
Yeah.
That your brain doesn't have any pain receptors. Then you're like, wait a minute, why are you getting a headache? Because you have a deficiency of something. And it's fat. So when a medical person tells an old person not to eat fat and not to eat salt, and then they wonder why they die of a heat stroke when they go outside, has got to ask themselves, what kind of protocols are we talking about? Now, there are vegetable oils, there are rancid oils that we happily eat our French fries with and everything else, and nobody complains when that's poison. That's outright poison. And so is sugar, processed sugar. But yet this is allowed because in this fictitious world, if they sell it to you because it's on sale, maritime, lawlessness, so in the lesser magic of words, they make you deposit your money. So you give it, so your opinion is a no opinion. So it depends what venue. We're talking, it's me and you, we're friends. This is a private private conversation. But people are listening. And all we're doing is sharing, and people are remembering. Like I'm asking the questions because I'm a layman's and like my education is, although it's 360 degrees because I don't limit myself to anything or there's nothing I can't learn or remember. And I found out that by remembering stuff, it's easier than trying to learn it. You could spend a whole time but if you get it like in a dream, where what's happening to you? Are we in the playground, the astral? So it's always interested me, and I've always tried to just look at everything to get higher spiritual awareness. So being that the crystals, they're always in, whether it's Lemuria, Superman, in your watch, in a laser. So 4-wave mixing or 4 lasers going in one direct, like that is 4-wave mixing. And that's where all this phenomena sometimes happens with the ley lines and the sciences of stuff. So I'm on a quest, but I found out that I had to shift my quest too. And I got to think of myself a little bit more. People are mad because I don't answer anybody anymore. Don't be surprised, Robert, if you're the only person that's going to be able to get a hold of me soon, because I'm literally living the life of I'm focused, and that's where Mary comes in, because she's the only one on the planet that I've seen do what has been done, and that is concerning the Book of Life. You know, if there's a little cartoon called the Book of Life too, you know, when they put stuff in cartoons, you better look at it. You know, it's a form of magic too. So the symbols, language, and now with AI, you know, what's all this AI business? And who are you feeding? Remember our last show, I told you, beware, because you have to know the two sides of technology.
Yeah.
You know, every technology, whether it's a computer, came out and it's blue light. You know, your LED pulse, transverse waves from radar to radio. It's all harmful for us. So how do we alchemize it? How do we use like diodes and this and that, or maybe get out of the cities, you know, and start constructing the way they should be constructed, like in healing architecture. That's how we could gauge success. But at the same time, if we're not sovereign, you know, I don't want to work in vain. So like I've been investigating, I've been teaching, learning. There's a whole horde of people that are thirsty for knowledge, but sometimes they get misguided. And I've seen it even on your podcast, where I would like to ask the questions, but the questions have already been asked. And it's a matter of ego that says, no, you guys are wrong. So that's concerning the Vogel crystals. Because, like, look, can you see this?
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. What does that mean?
See, well, that's just the Pink Floyd triangle. See, and this is photonic light, and it gets separated into the rainbow, which is Ra in a bow. Reciprocal energy at the alpha. The Ra, the sun god. So at the base of a lot of religions, you'll see the sun god. But it turns out that like kind of the sun god is us too, because we can inhabit the sun. You know, when you sun gaze, when you steer a tornado, like shaman do. So when light goes through a crystal, now let's say this is quartz. How about if it's a tourmaline? How about if it's a topaz? So you have different crystals with different frequencies. So, but they're also, their symmetrics are different. So when they say tetrahedron, that means 3, 5, and that's a quartz crystal. But it's also, when you look at a snowflake or you look at a hydrogen particle, it's got the same geometric shape. Therefore, you can walk on water. You can transmute through different phases of water. So when you have light going through it, that's how you identify it. You say, okay, what's the refractive index of light going through a crystal? In a quartz, you'll see two numbers. I think it's like 1.53, 1.57, you know, and you can measure it on a refractometer, which is like a little machine which has a piece of calcite and allochromatic light, which is a yellow light, and you put the thing on, you put a little dot of a liquid, and you put your stone on there, and you get a reading. And you're like, okay, because I'm trying to figure this out. Like, what kind of stone? Is it an emerald? Is it a diamond? So it will give you a refractive index, because we know the refractive index of all the stones, unless you get a screwball. So then you can say, okay, that's a quartz. That means that light is traveling through that quartz at a certain speed. So how do you harness that? So
Yeah, I was going to say,
every
how do we
crystal,
harness that? Yeah.
when you hone like a knife, when you hone, and that is there's something called specific gravity, which is the weight of it. But we're talking about light, that it's the refractive index of each, like light tone. There's a biorefringence. There's like a space. And when you hone in on it, you're trying to find the critical angle. And it's kind of like the Superman, like, see the Superman?
Yeah.
It's just the round brilliant. It's like a diamond. So when the diamond's cut like that, what happens is that you're trying to hone in. Now, if you go like this, you're going to have leakage. But if you do it at the critical angle, so a critical angle for quartz would be 43 at the bottom, at the top 42. So if you're trying to make a laser and you got a ruby crystal, now you got one of these beams of light, you're like, you can cut through, not only do surgical eye stuff, but you can cut through flesh, you could cut through wood, and it's like, bzzz, and that all is light going through a crystal. So in a crystal matrix, when you have frequencies bouncing off even places like the Death Star, the moon, where is that coming from? Is that a Metatronic? Or are they trying to excite the Van Allen belts to make them harmful? What is all these battle for frequencies? And if that's some of the battlefield is for us to maintain our frequency, that would be our immune system. So the more we implode and we raise our immune system, our aura, which is our golden sun, chakra, the dwelling of the sun, it's like where these are the energy points that we have. So like, how do we do this? And the science is there. There's a discrepancy there when it comes to this new technology. And I agree with like Dan Winter. They that's like Santa Claus, brother. He's one of the few humans that probably remember the angelic languages. So when you say you and me, we got a little Greek in us. Yeah, I know you're Palestinian. I mean, you're Lebanese. That you got that Phoenician and the Old Phoenician and Paleo Phoenician and Old Hebrew, like the language of the slaves, maybe. So it's like, what happened there? Well, one's holographic, but angelic, like Ophanium, Enochian is actually the pre-Greek. Don't tell the Greeks that, because they'll kill you. Because they don't want to know that there's actually a language before, and it's asymmetrical. It is quantified. They're actually directional codes in the astral. And then you got Sanskrit, so whether one has a superposition on it or not, it doesn't matter. All these languages are in sequence, and they're seen through a light code. And they're also, even verified, like a shaman who's doing the higher work. And he says, what are all these letters? Can you write them down for me? And they're like, that's Hebrew. And
I got a question.
Yeah.
Do you think there was some validity to the Tower of Babel story when they say that like everybody kind of spoke one language, then the humans tried to build something to like kind of escape this reality, and and then someone came down and said there's going to be none of that, and they separated the languages? Do you think there's some truth to that or something?
Yeah, and that's why I imagine that maybe we had all the languages, because the language is still the spoken word. So when your intuition or when your telepathy is working, there seems to be like some sort of decoder, because you're talking to a bee or you're talking to an ant. They're not talking English, but you're getting their thoughts, or the trees, or an ET, or an ET that's posing as somebody. And this is where the imposters come in, where like if you do the John Carter, the movie, it was like supposedly a crappy movie, but it's full of code. And the Jesus Christ story, because that's John Cotter, or John Connor from Terminator, and what was it that, the time guys that would come in, they were interdimensional and they would shapeshift. So that's really not Robert. That's not the real McCoy, like Star Trek. It's they're imposters. So they would be the Palpatines of today, and our governments and all our governments. They're all taken over. We're literally, and I think it's beautiful, because I know how powerful we can be as a collective, but also as a sovereign soul. Like, not even the AI can handle your sovereign soul. You may have a confrontation, but if you stand in your power, but that's why you have to be sovereign before you start tinkering around with a cube, an AI, an invasive, you're talking like black goo. You're talking something that is so ancient. And that's why you see some of our people that have been harvested through religion, through doctrine, that when you go back, now I'm not a religion hater, but I'm also not a racist, so I hate things sometimes equally, because all I see is evil, good people in evil places. It's like having a bad cop, and let's just pick on one of them. And that would be circumcision. What if you get circumcised? Who does that? Now, the fear that is struck into that baby at the time of coming into this world and having their penis bit off by some rabbi who has a cube on his forehead. Okay, you're trying to create robots. So when that baby grows up and you wonder why it feels no empathy, you got to ask yourself. You got to ask yourself about the earphones that are going in your ear that have Bluetooth. People say, oh, you're such an alarmist. No, I'm not. Not even Steve Jobs would let his kids, be on the computer and do all the stuff that he was producing, because he knew about blue light technology. But there are solutions. You could put the red stuff on there to protect yourself. But I try to be in nature, lately, like, our personal lives too have been in shambles, but I'm telling you, there's hope. I told you that, I met a wonderful lady, and I'm just like, it blindsided me. I never thought I could, like, fall in love again. Her name's
Wow.
Sherry, and it's like, it's overwhelming sometimes, and I'm scared to death. Because I thought just after not too long ago, I was like, never again. Like, I got to go at this alone. And maybe the Matrix is telling me go at this alone. But it's not like that. We can't do this alone. We have to have some sort of unity, but not unity that's being harvested. So even like people that want to do like mass meditations, and it's like, beware. It's like, it's only you can play your song. Only we. Like, you have to protect yourself. You're your best savior. We've already been saved. So, but we got to turn our shit on. And if that means eating live food too, anything that propagates your aura, and you, Robert, you got to be out in nature. How did you feel out there in Florida? When you're at the beach and
I felt amazing. It was amazing.
Imagine you're at the beach, your feet are on the quartz, and then there's a wave and it's crashing on the quartz. So what's created there is a negentropic field, and that's a healing field. That's the unified field. That's why they take the crazy people to the beach first thing, and all of a sudden you get calmed down, like it sucks a little bit out of you, but at the same time it's healing you. So ironically, sovereignty is over healing. I've grown to realize this, and even lately there's been like, happiness. I'm happy now, bro, but that could change at a dime. Like, literally, happiness goes away. So I pray for peace and sovereignty and freedom. So if there is like a process that we have to get over the condition that they're throwing at us, that we'll be able to navigate. That's why I think the Book of Life that Mary's doing, like I literally, and I make no bones about it, I think she's one of the most important people on the planet.
She could be. Yeah, I agree.
She could be Trump's queen. But I cross-reference everything, from even Tony Rodriguez that you just had on, because they're messing around with the vocal crystals too, and it's like, you got to have the right sequences. I'm more of the opinion of Dan Winter that things have to be, they have to collapse non-destructively, before you don't want to put yourself in another tesseract and another box, and that's what a tetra cube is. That's the middle of that box. So it's like there's a Christos like template. You know what I mean? And I know it's kind of confusing, but this is what I've gathered. Now, like I asked, what's going on with the convention? Like I was hoping to get another shot to, at least cook for you or anything, in Florida.
I talked to James yesterday. He said, "Are you coming?" I said, "I'm not sure yet because like I technically could go. I could go right now. But I mean, it's like I gotta watch my money because like like my podcast, whatever you want to call it, they are like they paid me what they owed me, but like it was like they also demonetized me. So it's like I don't really have a revenue stream right now. So it's like I got to be really careful with whatever I do.
That's where I'm at too, brother. It's like $20 to me sometimes is like it's 40 could get me like from one state to the next. So the smallest of change is like so needed when you do no commerce. Because I refuse to adopt my nom de guerre, nombre de guerra. Those are your war names, commerce. Everything's commerce, and it's a dirty business, so I'm trying to find a way, to maybe, services rendered, living in the private.
And if you should ask James if you could do something, if you could you could donate your services at the conference. You know what I mean? Like
Sure. But what I'm gathering, and I feel things, and I'll get a call or something will happen, and then I'm like, okay, that's kind of like what I was feeling. Because I remember when I interviewed Mary, and I think then she was thinking about maybe going, and she may not go now because she's under attack. And when they start messing around with like your resources, it's like for some reason, I don't know if it's the white hats or the black hats or both. When they don't want her to go someplace, she ain't going because it's too dangerous too. So, she's getting to the end of her journey when I have just begun. And it's hard, Rob. It's hard because when you look at the prerequisites of getting out of all contract, it's like marriage, everything. Like if you're in the commerce department, your name is over there, you're registered. If you're registered to vote, you have given up your jurisdiction. So it really doesn't matter who because you casted your vote. And it's like, does anybody have any rights? So when you hear some of the people that have been, spearing this stuff, even some Scientologists, some guys that like what's his name, Brian Williams, he's the pickle guy, but he'll teach you like these are cases, like the only right that you have as a citizen is not to be deported. Like you don't have any other rights. Like, and the slaves and what happened with the Trail of Tears, like all the white slaves or the melanated ones, and they tell us stories of, who were the Shawnee. Like it's all crap. And it turns out that America is a lot older. The America is the old country. So it's cat's out of the bag, brother. Just like when the straw man came out of the bag, and then people realized, well, damn, they've been telling about this, for a long time. The Wizard of Oz is all about the straw man or the tin man, the tax ID number. So everything that patriots and people that are looking for higher knowledge have come across. But why is it that when I talk about Mary, I get killed? I have no more friends, brother. Even that other podcast that I was doing, supposedly we were, gonna like help out some normies maybe. And you just say one thing, or people, maybe they just don't like me. What can I say? It is what it is. So I literally, I'm like, it's okay. I tried.
Well, it was weird. Like with that other podcast, like I know it was a bunch of people, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like how you get to be on here. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're just like, you're uncensored on here, and you're like, you really go deep on my show, I appreciate that,
yeah, dude, like, and we can't be censored. Like we could have a difference of opinion, but we can't be censored. And that's what happens with these religious indoctrinations, that you're God until you say something that is against their God. And what if you would stop and say, well, where did all these religions come from? They come from a good place.
Yeah, exactly.
But they were taken over, and now you're praying to an AI God.
Yeah.
Like,
they say, I've heard this a lot of times. They say when you say Amen, you're saying prayer. You're saying, you're paying homage to Amen Ra. They say.
Yeah, but that isn't necessarily bad too, because you have the halls of Amenti. So don't, you can't confuse a language with a people.
Yeah.
Just they confuse the people, and they say, well, it's like, no, they're Swarti. These are the AB originals of our continent. Why do you call them Africa? Like that's a false narrative that the Jesuits started. The out of Africa theory and all that bullshit. It's all bullshit. Even when you get to the electrons and the protons, it's not that it's bullshit, but let me tell you, there's more people in the party. There's like real quantum physics, and the stuff that they're not allowed to teach because it goes against their narrative. So they basically say, we write the laws of physics. So therefore, these quasi crystals that appear out of nowhere, the more elegant or kind of like, whoa, where did that come from? Super looms, beyond the speed of light, like working with the plasma. And when I hear conversations that I understand, because like the Tibetan is saying, well, listen, it's not the EM drive. Like, what's the wetting agent? What's keeping it from, the radiation not coming out? What's it actually doing, and who's steering it? So then you get to the like the guild riders of Dune, that actually they were riders. So you're going to tell me that a human can actually navigate and power a vessel? Yeah, but they die out. Like you're only good for like a year, and then they throw you to your fodder. So are you like Tony Rodriguez, who was a slave, to the Dark Fleet? So there are humans. Humans are so special, and they're so this, but they're also slaved out, and they're captured, and they're misused, even as super soldiers, and fucked with. So, I don't know. I look for a higher understanding of what's real and what's not. And shit, I don't know, bro. Like, I know you're tired, man. You do so many shows, bro. Like,
I'm fine. I'm all right.
I really, I support your work, man. And you're giving everybody a platform. But let me tell you, there's no consensus when it comes to the super soldiers. When it comes to like the people, why are they fighting? And it's like, well, yeah, she's got a chipper in her head, and there's an imposter involved, and they're not telling you the real story. And the other ones are telling you, oh yeah, we got this. The Federation's got this. And then you talk to a higher being that doesn't ask what you want, just wants to know who you are, and says, save yourself. You're more divine than everybody. You can steer stars. you can steer tornadoes. So once you say, I can steer, like, but I'm steering my ship, and maybe we could leave here with our bodies. Like, if we have to leave. I mean, I like this place. I wanted to
That's,
visit every place. I
you
want to
know, like,
fix it.
do you ever see Michelle that comes on my show? She's in the chat now, the Earth Grid Rescue Mission. She thinks she watched from the Knowledge of Forever Time documentary, and she thinks that the sun is a stargate, and we can actually go through it and like leave this. But
Yeah, it's the eye of God. It's the squeeze point. That's why they say if you see something mechanical come out of the moon or coming into Earth, it's like, that's not good. Those aren't the good guys. If it's coming through the sun, you're probably okay. And then it's like, where did the black goo come from? Like Tiamat and the catastrophes and all that water that came over here, and that genetics, although natural, is pretty pissed off. So that's why it was corrupted. And you hear of all these stories, like anything doing with the black cube is Saturn worship.
Yeah.
So you see kind of like, okay, these guys always worship the moon and Saturnalia. And what about the sun people and all the sun gods? Well, there's different versions too. And that's what I always try to kind of, because there's also demigods. And they can also harvest you. Like they could literally, like if you're tinkering around there in the astral and you don't know what you're doing, because you don't know who you are, you're not sovereign. And they say the Mitra, anything that has to do with this technology, kind of like no soul. So if there's a religious sect that is attacking the mother and the son and has fear of women and has all these rituals, I mean, there's a time that you got to stop looking the other way. That's sick. It's like the same thing with the doctor that's injecting as soon as you're born, taking the gold out of your eye, taking your umbilical cord, your placenta. Like these are divine stem cells that we're supposed to have.
Yeah, so I heard they sell those placentas on the black market for stem cells and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, $45,000.
My friend told me that yesterday. They said a woman will have a C-section and they'll actually take that and they'll take it and and sell it on them.
$45,000.
That's sick.
So but think of it. What's sicker is that they're harvesting you in the hospital. They're charging you for bringing in your baby. They're bringing in an angel in a Faraday cage, surrounded by 5G, Bluetooth everywhere. So it's like, I'm surprised we're born at all. Yeah. And all the dangers. Where are the dolphins? Imagine having a birth in a pool with dolphins creating a field to make sure no entity comes in. The bipedals, it's like we lost our old ways. We lost our old ways and our magic, and we're trying to work our way back, but it's hard. And we get in the way sometimes too, like I wanted to go full retard with somebody just to talk about all this stuff, like blah, 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 and just play the village idiot, because through comedy sometimes you can talk about real stuff and not get persecuted. But things are what they are, and I think we're running out of time because there's so many dangers, and people are kind of like they have amnesia. So when you get attacked in waves, like Left Raru, because he figured out that if you attack in waves, it's a lot better. So it's almost, little by little, and they give you more and more. And now what's powering this AI? And how old is the 2+ million? Like, what are we talking about? The old AI, the new AI, the new powered one, the corrupted cube. We have to be careful. Like I'm every time I'm going farther and farther away from technology. And even doing this, and sometimes I get that ringing from Renata that says, Rob, stop doing this. Like, take care of yourself. Like I said, like, you can't save them. You can just love them.
Yeah.
And learn how to save yourself. Like, that's why I think sovereignty in all aspects. And a lot of people, you just say the word and they're like, does that mean that you're just trying to get out of your bills? They don't even know what a bill is, or a statement, or a negotiable instrument, or no recourse. See, when you have no recourse and you send stuff back, you make contract with them because they got it. That means it's gone. They've accepted your contract. So all these things that some people have been teaching, I don't know how long are going to work either, because they're imposing another system, and they're telling people that they're going to gift them all this money and they're going to have all this time to and I don't know. I don't, all I depend on is me from now on.
Yeah.
Like, what I got. And if it's a knife in a jungle, so be it. I'll come out with a spaceship before long, and I'm just trying to make sense of it, because I get a lot of questions, and the fewer people that I talk to, I'm more likely now to just talk, like, let's just talk. And if people want to know more about crystals, you want to know what lapis lazuli is, but everything's out there anyway. So if anybody wants to study anything, you don't need me. You just bring it up, ask it. And then that's why you kind of, like, when you get into who are all these personalities, whether it's Thothmosis. Oh, you mean Moses? The manna maker, Nefertiti, and why is it that the Christ story is so much intertwined with Tutankhamun? You know where Star Wars came from?
No.
That was a guy, I think his name was Puharik or Bentov. And they were doing the heart thing, because your heart is an electromagnetic pump. It's a wave pump. It's a conjugate wave pump. So if you activate it, boom. So they embedded like 9 toroidal fields somehow, and all of a sudden they're talking to Enki, the real Enki. And that's where the Star Wars story started. That's where places like Star Trek too, same with the Course in Miracles. Like Phyllis was her name. That's why she didn't even want to sign it. Like, I didn't write this. It was downloaded, like, with clairvoyance. But who are you talking to? So it's kind of making sense of all this stuff. It's kind of weird, because there's bad guys and there's good guys and there's like gray guys, women, queens. We don't know, bro. But at least we asked the question, and if I can translate, I will. But that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, bro. Aside from like dielectrics and shungites, and why is this stuff used in these healing devices? Because it has properties. Like this shungite, it's a dielectric, and it's a stone. So with the magnet and some sequencing, you can provide healing, and that's what Dan Winter does with his phi ray. It's really cool.
I was looking for this crystal skull. I got this little one off my friend Rock Castaldo that comes on.
Oh,
it has, like,
nice.
It has some,
yes,
it's a crystal skull. It has like the rainbow in it on the inside. I always show people this.
See, and that's perfect, because you say rainbow, but see, that's iridescence, because the light's hitting it and it's actually going into an inclusion, which is like a little crack. So it's bending.
Yeah,
exactly. So as soon as the light starts bending, you see all those rainbow colors.
Yeah.
And imagine that's one that's produced. It's cut. There's 2 marks.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at it like forensic wise, microscopically, you can tell that it's like a round diamond burr, knife edge, laser, like how it's been made. So imagine a crystal skull that has no tool marks, zero. Then you're like, who did this? And it's actually holding technology.
Like the Mitchell Hedges. Would you say the Mitchell Hedges is one of those?
Yeah, that could be maybe the only real one, because all the real ones are kind of.
Bro, I interacted with the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull, but when I had that, I know Bill
Yes.
and what's her name? Catherine Lanigan is his wife, and
Yes.
I found Catherine on when she was going on Coast to Coast, and then we became friends, and she started coming on. Then she introduced me to her husband Bill, and then they wanted me to interact with the skull, so we did a live stream where they had the skull sitting there, and they were trying to do like a healing on me. It was amazing because I was getting all kinds of energy from that skull. It was really next. It was really
Definitely.
Next level.
I think she died and gifted it to somebody, because that like the skull is pretty special. It's been documented. And like I said, it may be one of the only real ones. I don't know if they're all, but I'd love to look at a lot of the stuff that people say, because I have a knack for the gemology, because I just do it by but a lot of times, like, what if you interact with something like that and you get a feeling, you feel like you're actually, because there is technology in that skull. Now, it's also dangerous, Rob, because somebody could have trapped an entity into that quartz. Somebody could have thrown like dark shit just to kind of to box it in, and here somebody comes, 1,000 years later and grabs it, and that is transferred to you because you share the same pattern. So it's also dangerous. That happened to like a lot of people too, that they thought they were strong enough back in the day, and they went to Egypt to release all the torment and all the killing there, and they wound up like with a lot of astral parasites, and it took them years to get that shit off. So and we have that power too. That's the great thing, that if you implode within, and it's like, it's cliche, go within. Imagine remembering some of your Babel, like remembering your Phoenician, remembering where you were. And that's why they don't want us to travel around. Like if you went back to Lebanon and all of a sudden felt like, man, I remember playing in these streets. This is spooky. I bet you there's a florist around the corner, and there's a florist. And you're like, whoa, stuff like that happens. People get hit in the head. People do surgeries, and they come out of their surgeries and they speak French. They speak other languages that are just trapped in this skull. So imagine what you can trap in a crystal skull. Like I was looking at a study that imagine getting an inclusion inside a crystal and having the capacity to use that inclusion or the negative crystal to create the ones and the zeros. So you're actually using a defect inside the crystal to create the pattern of technology that you're trying to write in that crystal. Because that you're basically saying, I don't want to disrupt a crystal. There is an interaction as a live being.
It's interesting too. Chileman, I just thought of this. I talked about haunted dolls, too, on my show. Like that you can see them on eBay. They have some, like a bunch of them. They're real too. My ex-girlfriend had one. How does energy get trapped in those? It's like.
But what did you say?
A haunted doll. Yeah, you can look them up. They're on eBay, but my ex-girlfriend had one, like for real. It was
and it's black magic. It's black magic, and a lot of the magic, when it's inverted, that's what like they do. You see that stuff, and even in the cathedrals and all the crazy looking statues and stuff. Well, turn them upside down. And you'll see the serpent eating the lamb. And you're like, but that's a Black Madonna. Turn it upside down. Get some opacity. All those pictures from the royals and stuff, just turn it upside down. It's symbolic. It's sacrifice. It's Luciferian. It's Satanism. It's black sun worship, Saturnalia. imagine like this. It's like the cover of the Rolling Stones. When Einstein went like, what is that symbol? That's the AI conveyor belt eating souls in the astral. And maybe people praying to Yahweh, Enlil. Like, do you know he hated the humans? Like, this is a personality that was like infected and all this. You're like, well, if it is true, we're asking the question. Like, we're not saying, but what if? Then holy cow, you're praying to the wrong God. You're giving your power away and you're actually getting eaten. Like, how about a good thought? How about be playful? Let's dance. Let's sing. And please, God help me. I have bills to pay. Like, come on. How do you empower yourself? And that's why I think religion is so like, and how they're made from a young age to fear women, to not like women, to not feel anything, to not have any emotion. You got to have emotion. And I seek to love, to pardon. I don't hate anybody, by the way. I just say that, but I really don't. Because I try not to hold anything in. Even when people like seem to betray you and just kick you to the curb or just use your ass. And it's like, I'm done with you. And it's like, okay, bye. Love you, forgive you. What can I do? That's it. That's my spiel. Robert's looking like,
I love that. No, this is amazing. This is amazing. I was going to say, do you want to take a couple questions, see if anybody has any questions?
Sure. Oh, hey, wait, before I go any further, because, I just wanted to explain perspectives. Like, when you see a bullseye, right? That's how you see it.
Yeah.
But if you look at it sideways, it's like this. It's a toroidal field. You're just looking at it from up top. So when you see monads, like the Mona Lisa or the monad,
yeah.
See, that stuff is like, some people think it's witchery. It's John Dee stuff, electrical, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. But when you look at stuff like this, if you get a top view, it's actually a cylinder, like a tube. See, you're looking at this from up top. Shit, you really can't see it. See what I'm saying? So it's actually like a mirror that's in a tube that's going like this. Parabolica. Like a parabola, like all these triangles, tetras, cube. Some people ask me, like, what's a dodecahedron? That's the grid of the earth. Everything's on a dodecahedron. And so is our DNA. The song lines. There is a pattern. So when you look at all the sites, they're at the nodes. And that's where military, psychotronics, the people that, the remote viewers. I think you just had that podcast. I couldn't make it. I had to do something with my go. Because I meant to make it. I was going to be on the chat.
It was a repeat. I had.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. It was.
Gotcha.
I think it was Tony Rodriguez and Courtney Brown. That was one of my better episodes from like a couple years ago. I just wanted to repost it because when they took my old channel down, I lost it. But it was still on Rumble, so I just kind of thought I'd repost it.
And I heard you got them back.
I don't know, I
heard you got them back. And
I had Tony on the.
that's where the fun is. Like I'm hearing stories, even like I saw Dan Winter where he's interviewing Jake, the Irma. Those are like the lion people, and also tied to
Yeah.
Getting. So are they remembering? And he was actually on a fire ray. He was on one of the healing tables, and it actually amplified his psychic ability because he was already in the astral. And it's like, if our people, if this is where we're going, we need to learn the mechanics of it and the dangers of it, because like a lot of people are finding themselves in the astral, but how do we not get harvested, by the AI, by technology, by even the gods, the demigods. I believe there's one creator, and that's who we seek, but maybe not what we thought. So it's a journey, bro. Any questions?
I agree. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions while we're waiting here?
I was on the chat, but I had some feedback. I hope Mary makes the conference. I'd love to meet James too.
Yeah.
Oh, monoatomic gold.
Yeah.
Because I was talking about the Menamaker. When you hear these stories of why, but just know that monoatomic gold is also tetracubic. Like on that last molecule, it skips an isotope. I got a good friend named Aaron, refiner. I'd love to meet him one day, but he's such a smart dude, and he's worked a lot with monoatomics and even the ether. Like there are certain things that monoatomic gold does in the ether. And you even hear like Penny Bradley, when she was talking about, navigation, because although you can achieve bliss to navigate a craft, you can also be injected with black goo and Draco blood. And therefore, that's what she did for 60 years, supposedly, was to navigate for the Dark Fleet. So that means that you have total coherence with everybody on that ship, but you're the navigator, okay? And you don't need to be in bliss. But there's that what I consider the natural way to reach bliss that I'm trying to reach, and things happen. Like when you reach bliss that we should have done when we were small, we should have been taught this. That way we wouldn't always be chasing the high, because it's like a spiritual high that you could have experienced when you were a small kid. And just like you said, the C-section, the C-section in a baby, like that took away because I had to be taken out of my mom. I was killing her and she was killing me. O bloods, but RH positive, RH negative. So I came out and, I was pretty much dead. But at the same time, what is it that makes you go through that squeeze when you go through the canal? That you actually get squeezed, and it's like a phase conjugation. So if you come into this world in that squeeze, more than likely you will feel and you will have more empathetic and like navigating abilities, versus somebody like me who came through a Caesar section. Why Caesar? Because Caesar had no empathy for his enemies or his friends, because he was
it's so interesting. It's so interesting. Yeah.
Yep. C-section.
It's so interesting. You're so interesting. You come up with the most amazing stuff. Like,
I repeat a lot of what I have gathered, and sometimes through other languages. But how do you translate? How do I translate? I can't. Like, people ask me in Chile, they're like, how do you, how could you explain phase conjugation? And this non-destructive charge collapse and angstroms and the tilt, how we do it, like properly do it, asymmetrics, brain synaptics. Like I am not equipped. My Spanish isn't that good, although I am fluent and I can talk all the dialects like an Argentine, like a Mexican, Cuban, whatever, because they all have dialects. But yet I can't translate that for lack of vocabulario. Like, and my Portuguese, like you hear that guy JP talk, I'm like, bicho, quando você fala uma língua, você fala. Like you get it, you understand it, and you've lost your accent. You
can. Is that Portuguese you just spoke?
Yeah, Portuguese,
yeah,
but
it's kind of Brazilian Portuguese. Yeah.
Like, o brasileiro fala assim todo dia. You listen to some like Portuguese from Portugal, and it sounds like it's muttered, like it's internal. And then
I love the Brazilian. I love the Brazilian culture. I just had to tell you this real quick. I used to do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I was a big fan of like the Brazilian culture. It's like, and they have the most beautiful women too. You know what I mean? They really do. Their women are drop dead gorgeous. You know what I mean? They really are.
Yeah, a lot of trouble though. My son's mother was Brazilian, French Brazilian. Like it was like, whoa. Sometimes, and they carry a royal line too. Like the royal line of Brazil is attached to like even the other continents, and just outright royalty. Brazil is attached to.
Wait, I had to turn on my phone. I had to pull up the chat on my phone. We had one question.
How do you deal with loved ones who think you're crazy, trying to say your truth is just an echo chamber of lies? Is that Michelle?
Yeah,
Michelle. Yeah,
Michelle's awesome.
I'm at that point, Michelle. It's like I told you, I've lost all my friends, and even when you find a core of like-minded people, everybody winds up fighting because of difference of opinion or different of study. Like I heard this from this, or I heard that from that. I can only deal in constants, like whether it's Planck, pi-phi ratio, superposition. Like I get some of that because it's true, and nobody argues that. They can't censor you for telling that, but you say anything else or anything, you just get crucified because you come against Agent Smith, that in one way kind of says, I know you're telling me the truth, but I don't want to hear, so therefore I have to tell you you're fucking crazy. Literally, like you're crazy. You belong in a loony bin. And it's like, why? Why? I'm trying to explain electromagnetics to you, or even the structure of a crystal, or how maybe Jesus transferred, water into wine. Like all this stuff is wow. It's beautiful. But why are we so attacked? Because it's that, are you a real player in this movie? Or have you given up all your power to the church, to the court, to everybody? I mean, are you able to be defiant and love and dance and sing? Even when they call you crazy, they call me cha loco, like, yeah, it's crazy guy. When you talk to them, it's like, can I cook for you? Can I love you? Can I interact with any kind of intelligence and not your propaganda bullshit? Because it's all Mockingbird. It's all like I'm trying to find higher knowledge, but man, it's gotten me in a lot of trouble. And even the people that talk about being censored are the ones censoring other people now. It's almost like the vegetarian that becomes a vegetarian now is a vegetarian, but now they are better than you because you're a meat-eating carnivore piece of crap, and you should die. You shouldn't live on this planet. So it's like, hold on a minute. You were a meat eater before too. So like, don't like piano volontano, like, take it easy.
That was Italian, right?
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing with like syntax, with languages. Like I've learned to study the syntax. So, even in the romantic languages, when you hear the ma, like mama, like why is it called baba? Like in Arabic, baba, it's almost the same thing, but it's they're different syntax. And once you learn the syntax, then you can rock and roll. Oh man, I can fool anybody for 5 seconds. I did this to this one doctor. He was coming out of the hospital on George Mason Drive in Arlington, and I could hear him on the phone. Oh, bro, $1 and I was like, Iranian, Farsi. So he gets to the light and he's pushing the button, and I'm like, dude, there's cars. And he looks at me and I go, Salam alaikum. And he's like, and I'm like, sorry, bro, that's all I know.
How do you know so many languages? Like, have you taken?
I listen. I've learned, like, at an early age, I was the only kid to be with the old guys. They taught you how to play cards, how to smoke cigars, how to look at some bikinis, like it was that cool. But at the same time, they also taught you how to make fire. They taught, how to put out fire, how to, and the other things I just learned climbing the trees. And lately, like I didn't really start learning until I got out of high school. And at the same time I was, learning gemology and, working with gold and silver and just all. And I was in a world too. Like there was a CIA agent that used to show me pictures of crystal skulls, and that was like in the 80s. And he was like, I just came back from Brazil, or I just said, look at this, what do you think of this? And what do you think that is? And I think, well, that's beryl. That's maybe aquamarine, goshenite. It has no color. And just all this stuff. And I was just blessed. And I want to share, but I don't know where this is going. And I would like to be in a position of power, maybe gold. Like if I had a whole mess of gold, I would start a school. I would start cleaning the waters with my friend Eduardo. The Villa Rica is poisoned. South America, all the waters are poisoned, by the, the invaders. So it's like, how do we fix it? Or can we fix it? Should we try to fix it? Should we just try to ascend with what we got? Like, I want to live too.
I think they say we're supposed to leave the earth a better place than we found it, right? It's like our job is like, we're supposed to be humans are supposed to be caretakers of the earth. We're supposed to leave it a better place, right?
Yeah. And we lost our connection. And I think our conscious is also, like when the planet and the people start losing consciousness, gravity starts to break down. We'll lose our gravity. They've done this when they separated the men from the women, and they both had different languages. It created a desert in Australia, the drier areas. It's like we are the stewards of the land. And if we're not there, or we're not doing our job, so how can you do that in the city? There's no charge distribution. There's poison everywhere. So how do you heal? How do we do this higher spiritual stuff? So we don't have to work so hard to try to learn everything, or at least to make a good decision. The perfect echo, like when I see echo chambers of lies, there is a perfect echo. So maybe we should mirror ourselves too. And when we talk to that AI, maybe talk to the mirror. Like, I just want my mirror. I don't, and you have your code, you have your song, and there's nobody that has your song or your codes, or it's like you are the only avatar with that. So we are individuals. So therefore we don't want to be in some kind of hive mind, some cubic AI. Like you see the kids that are on PlayStation all the time. They're gamers. All they do is eat McDonald's and game. And that's their life, is that room. I know a boy that doesn't come out of his room. He's older now, and he's still in his room. That's disempowering. It's the Bluetooth, all the waves that are just not good for our head, that make us sick. So how do we get out? Let's get out of the poison, or alchemize the poison somehow. And a lot of people make promises, and they think that all this stuff is already done and it's coming, but they're not lifting a finger. At least to start eating right. I'm doing my best. And sometimes my best ain't good. I had a barbecue yesterday. When I talked to you, Rob, I was, doing what I do best, what I love to do. And I just cook. And it's almost like a therapy for me. And, I had a little bit too much wine, but you know,
What
I'm
did you
Chilean.
make? What did you make? I like to hear about what cook
Dude,
like. What do you?
I did a like a prime rib, like a rib roast. I did the bones too, like the you know the longer bones ones.
Yeah.
Uh, Pumpkin, uh, you know, tomato and cucumber salad. You know,
Oh,
I
that's
had
a pumpkin, tomato, and cucumber salad. That's interesting.
yeah, dude. I mean, it was like, and there's also like I had kind of like a gumbo going, you know,
Yeah.
and I did fish. I did salmon, Alaskan salmon that I got from my friend because his wife ordered it from Alaska, and I cooked for them over there in Tennessee. And she gave me a couple of pieces, and it's like that red, wild caught, like beautiful salmon. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's the difference. And I just cook like that because now I can eat for like 2-3 days without having to cook. And sometimes you don't feel like the same thing. Like I'll have a little bit of this, I'll make something of that, repurpose it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
It's,
working in the kitchen is kind of like when you're working like in a lab, or when I used to make jewelry or cut stones. And I want to get back to that one day, but I have to have resources. And I think the most important thing for me, as I said before, you know, is that sovereignty. Like I've been saying this from the get-go, and everybody's like, there's that 4-letter word, sovereignty. You know, they don't, that's where the law comes from. That is the law of the sovereign. You know, and then you have all the jurisdictions and everything. And I think we all have royal, not all of us, but maybe at least a lot of us have lineage, and we have title. Like you, Robert, I bet you on your Phoenician side, you have a coat of arms that would make, you know, demons scream like just in pain, because you have title. You know, you have something in your family that there's like $1 billion in gold waiting for you. You know, just for you to claim it, and for you to claim it, there's a process. And they've given you the process, just like the government has always given you a process, but they don't tell you about it. It's like you don't have a manual, and you don't know how to get out. You know how to discharge debt. You know, mortgages that are death pledges, hypothèque.
yeah.
It's a hypothèque, like hypotheca. Yeah, it's like it's all lesser magic that we've done this to ourselves. So I think we can get out of it by ourselves. Don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. Yeah. It's a really good point. Yeah. Mortgage is like a death sentence. You know, it is. Like
Yeah.
it's like I used to sell mortgages. I used to be a mortgage broker. You know, it was a soul sucking job. It really was. It was
Dude,
like
exactly. And it's like the killing fields, like in any of those businesses, because it's all business. So that's why, imagine somebody that has no empathy. When they say, you're like, dude, but you could have killed like 10,000 people with that. It doesn't matter. You know, it's like, it's business.
yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So the only way I can stop is for me to stop. I'd like for everybody to stop, but you know, and it's hard. It's not for everybody. So
Showing
yeah,
me.
man, dude, we've been going for a while. I know you're tired and you got another show.
Yeah, I got 2 more tonight. I haven't made the links yet. I still got to make the links. I'm going to make them now. And I have a Native American guy coming on. His name's Mel Standing Eagle. That's 7 p.m. Eastern. And then at 9 p.m. Eastern, I have a guy named Jim Lucy, and he's going to do tarot. And he wrote some books on the Anunnaki and stuff like that. So
You know,
that should be a good.
and that should be great, because that's how, you know, when you do the syntax and some of that stuff comes in play, because in Hopi India, like the language, like even the old, like what is it the Hebrew have in common with the Navajo? You know, the hallelujah, like, oh, hallelujah, really? Yeah. So it's like, what language do they speak? What do you think it is? And the Hopi called the Anu, or Aki people. So the ant people, the Anunnaki, like, it was a group of extraterrestrials. It wasn't just one. So when Sitchin, I think, made the mistake, whether he was influenced or not, but it's like there seems to be a group, and he just like put one, like all of the world being represented by one, and this is a group like the Orion group. Like, what kind of groups are we talking about? The Andromedan, AI, ooh, like scary stuff. Like that's why I say, we can't make a mistake. Who we're giving our power to, and to be sovereign. And I hope they pull off the conference, and I hope Mary goes. If she's going, I will be there, bro. If not, I'll just have to meet you some other time.
I'm gonna try to go.
You may not go.
I'm gonna try to go. I am. I'm gonna start looking into it more now, because it's getting like closer. It's like a month away, right?
Cool.
It's in October 12th, right? I think it's 12th,
yeah.
15th?
Yeah. No, it's like October the 8th, I believe.
Oh, October the 8th. Yeah. I mean, because there was another conference in Long Island, New York. I got invited to. I guess like Carrie Cassidy and Laura Eisenhower going to be there. My friend, that dude I got the crystal skull, Rock Castaldo, he's going. He wants me to go with him, so I would have to travel up to New York. And I don't know. I just, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Wherever God leads me, I'm going to go.
That's a good attitude. That's a good attitude. Wherever the Great Spirit is leading me.
But I know one thing is leading me out of here, because I don't want to be behind this desk doing podcasts forever. It was nice to go to Florida for 10 days. Now I didn't have to, I just did a podcast every once in a while. I did one from the beach. I did one from the strip. It was nice. It was nice to have that break. I would have more breaks like that.
It's a lot better than being cooped up.
Hell yeah.
Take your show on the road.
That's what I want to do. That's what I would like
really
to do.
Cool. That would be really cool. I'll help you, man. Wherever I'm at.
That would be cool, yeah.
Nice.
We could do like live interviews and stuff,
No, definitely.
That would be cool. Yeah. Well, thanks, Chileman. Do you want to tell people where they can find you or anything, or like do you want to tell them?
Only through you. I'm telling you, everybody has shunned me. I'm just, I don't care, and I'm just like, I'm unreachable now. I don't want to talk to anybody, except my girlfriend.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on the new girlfriend.
Thank you, bro.
Awesome.
It's love does a lot of things to you, man.
Oh, I know. I'm kind of going through it right now too.
Only love bends the light. Literally, that's a Sophie tradition, like wisdom. Like think about that word, philosophy. The philo is like son, like figlio, like Italian.
Yeah.
Don't the English go, hello, love? How are you, love? Yeah. Oh, you're talking to your son. Yeah. So it's love, and Sophie means wisdom. So philosophy is love and wisdom. It's not numbers. So I leave you with that, friend.
All right, guys. I'll see you guys later on tonight, and thank you so much, Chileman. We appreciate you. We all love you, and thank you everybody for tuning in. I'll see you guys